Lucy's house was buzzing with activity in anticipation of her birthday party. She was running around, checking the decorations, and making sure everything was ready for the guests. The decorations were carefully selected to create a magical festive atmosphere. Vintage garlands, twinkling with lights, adorned the walls and ceiling. The table was sprinkled with confetti and decorated with flowers, and a barbecue area was set up in the backyard. Lucy was trying to handle the final preparations when Alex, her friend's son, approached her. He offered to help, and Lucy, already exhausted from all the tasks, gratefully accepted his offer. As Lucy and Alex worked together to string lights and arrange decorations, Lucy couldn't help but notice how much Alex had grown. He was no longer the awkward teenager she remembered. Instead, he had matured into a confident young man. Their hands brushed occasionally as they worked, each touch sending a small jolt through Lucy. The kitchen was filled with the aroma of the dishes Lucy was preparing. Alex followed her, offering to help with whatever needed to be done. As they moved around the kitchen, Alex reached for a dish on the top shelf and accidentally brushed against Lucy, his chest pressing lightly against her back. Lucy's breath caught as she felt the warmth of his body and his breath on her ear. For a moment, they both froze. The proximity was unexpected and charged with a tension neither of them had anticipated. Lucy felt her heart race, and she struggled to maintain her composure. She could sense Alex's own unease as he slowly stepped back, their eyes meeting briefly, filled with unspoken thoughts. They continued their work in a silence that was anything but calm. Each accidental touch, each shared glance, seemed to deepen the connection between them. Alex's presence was magnetic, and Lucy found herself drawn to him in a way that defied logic. As they worked, Lucy couldn't help but admire Alex's diligence and maturity. He moved with a confidence that was both surprising and captivating. The way he handled tasks, his quiet efficiency, and the occasional, almost shy smile he sent her way, made her pulse quicken. The tension between them was palpable, an undercurrent that neither could ignore. Lucy found herself constantly aware of Alex, his every move, every subtle gesture. She knew she was treading on dangerous ground, but she couldn't help herself. The attraction was undeniable, and it was only growing stronger. By the time the decorations were finished and the preparations complete, the sun was beginning to set. The house looked beautiful, ready to welcome the guests. But Lucy's mind was elsewhere, caught up in the whirlwind of emotions that Alex had stirred in her. That evening, as she stepped back to admire their handiwork, Lucy realized that something had changed. Alex was no longer just a family friend. He was something more, something that she couldn't quite define but felt deeply. The day had taken an unexpected turn, and Lucy knew that nothing would ever be quite the same again. Lucy couldn't stop thinking about the moments she spent with Alex while preparing for her birthday. His chest pressed against her back, his breath warm on her ear. These thoughts kept replaying in her mind. She tried to dismiss them, telling herself it was just an unexpected moment of closeness. But the memories clung to her, intertwining with her daily routine. A few days later, Lucy was alone at home. The party had been a success, and everything had returned to normal, except for the tension she felt every time she thought about Alex. She tried to focus on work, but her thoughts constantly drifted back to those moments in the kitchen. One afternoon, while Lucy was sorting through old family photos in the living room, she heard a knock on the door. To her surprise, it was Alex. He stood there with his usual charming smile, holding a book in his hands.
Hi, Lucy. I thought you might like this.
He said, handing her the book.
It's one of my favorites.
Lucy took the book, their fingers brushing against each other. That touch sent a familiar shiver down her spine.
Thank you, Alex. That's very thoughtful of you.
They stood there for a moment, an awkward silence hanging between them. Lucy invited him in, and they sat in the living room. The air was thick with unspoken tension, a sense of something bubbling beneath the surface. As they chatted, the conversation gradually became more personal. Alex shared his college experiences, his dreams, and aspirations. Lucy was captivated by his stories, his passion, and enthusiasm. She admired his maturity, his intellect, and the way he looked at her with those intense, searching eyes. Their conversation flowed easily, but the tension between them only grew. Lucy felt her pulse quicken every time Alex leaned in closer, their proximity making it hard to concentrate. She noticed how his gaze lingered on her, the subtle changes in his posture hinting at something more. At one point, Alex moved closer to adjust a picture frame on the coffee table, his hand brushing against Lucy's. She felt a shiver run down her spine, that touch sparking a wave of desire she tried to suppress. The air between them was thick with anticipation, each small movement laden with meaning. As the day turned to evening, the room dimmed, lit only by a small lamp in the corner. The twilight added an intimacy to the moment, casting shadows that seemed to dance around them. Lucy felt herself being drawn to Alex, the magnetic pull between them growing stronger with each passing minute. Finally, unable to resist any longer, Lucy reached out and placed her hand on Alex's arm. He looked at her, his eyes full of a mix of surprise and desire. Without saying a word, he leaned in, and their lips met in a soft, tentative kiss. The touch was electric, sending waves of warmth through Lucy's body. The kiss deepened, their bodies moving closer together. Lucy's knees felt weak, her legs trembling with desire. She let out a soft moan without realizing it when Alex grabbed her by the hips and pulled her towards him. Her breathing became heavy, each touch sending jolts of pleasure through her. When they finally pulled apart, both of them were breathing heavily, their faces flushed. Lucy looked into Alex's eyes and saw the same mixture of confusion and desire reflected in his gaze. They sat in silence, the weight of what had happened hanging in the air. Neither of them spoke, but the unspoken promise was clear. This was just the beginning. The tension between them had been ignited, and there was no turning back. They were drawn to each other, and no matter how hard they tried to fight it, the pull was too strong to ignore. Parties were never just entertainment for Lucy, but a chance to escape from the daily routine. This time, the evening promised to be special. Alex would also be present. Excitement, mixed with a hint of fear, filled her as she prepared for the evening. The house was filled with guests, noise, and laughter filling the space. Lucy tried to engage in light conversation, but her thoughts kept returning to Alex. She saw him across the room, talking to friends, his smile lighting up the room. She felt her knees shake at the thought of what could be between them. At one point, their paths crossed at the drinks table. Alex handed her a glass, their fingers briefly touching, and that short contact sent a wave of desire through her. He smiled, and she saw the same feelings in his eyes.
Thank you,
Lucy said, trying to stay calm.
You're welcome.
Alex replied, his voice soft and warm.
Are you enjoying the evening?
Yes, of course.
During the party, a minor commotion occurred. Someone accidentally dropped a glass, and Lucy volunteered to help clean up the mess. Alex followed her, and they ended up alone in the storage room where the cleaning supplies were kept. In the darkness of the storage room, Lucy felt her breathing quicken. Alex stepped closer, their bodies almost touching. She felt his breath on her ear, and her knees began to tremble.
Lucy?
He whispered, his voice low and husky. She couldn't hold back. Her arms wrapped around his neck, and they melted into a passionate kiss. She began to moan without realizing it as Alex took her by the hips and pulled her close. Their breath mingled, and desire overwhelmed them both. They couldn't stop. Their desire was too strong. When they finally pulled apart, Lucy felt her knees shaking. She looked at Alex, seeing the passion in his eyes. They knew it was wrong, but they couldn't stop. At that moment, the storage room door burst open, and Alex's mother stood before them. Her eyes were filled with surprise and confusion.
What is going on here?
She asked, trying to process what she was seeing. Lucy and Alex quickly pulled away from each other, feeling extremely awkward.
Just cleaning up.
Lucy mumbled, avoiding eye contact with Alex's mother. Alex's mother looked at them intently but said nothing more.
All right, but you better get back to the guests.
She finally said, and left, leaving them in tense silence. Lucy and Alex walked out of the storage room, trying to act as if nothing had happened. But the tension between them only grew stronger, and they knew their connection had become even more dangerous. Several days had passed since the party, but Lucy couldn't stop thinking about Alex. Their brief but intense interaction in the storage room had left an indelible mark on her memory. She tried to focus on her tasks, but thoughts of him constantly surfaced in her mind. One morning, deciding to distract herself, Lucy went to the local library. She loved spending time among books, finding comfort and tranquility there. This time, she especially wanted to escape the intrusive thoughts about Alex and their forbidden connection. She wandered between the shelves, lost in her thoughts, when she decided to take a book from the top shelf. Standing on tiptoe, she reached up and, as she removed the book, suddenly saw Alex's face on the other side of the shelf. He was equally surprised. Their eyes met, and in that moment, time seemed to stand still. Lucy froze, feeling her heart start to beat faster. Not knowing whether to approach or leave, she took a step forward. Alex looked up and noticed her. His face lit up with a smile, and he waved her over to join him.
Lucy, what a surprise to see you here.
He said as she approached the table. His voice was warm and friendly.
Yes, I decided to do some reading.
They started talking, discussing books and other interesting topics. Lucy felt the tension between them gradually fade, giving way to pleasant conversation. They talked about literature, music, and even a bit about their personal plans for the future. At one point, Alex leaned in closer to show her something in his book. Their faces were very close, and Lucy felt his breath on her face. Her heart beat even faster, and she barely resisted the urge to pull him in and kiss him. Suddenly, a librarian walked by, and Alex pulled back, returning to his book. They continued their conversation, but now the tension was back. Lucy realized that their meeting at the library was coincidental, but every moment spent with Alex only intensified her feelings. When it was time to leave, Alex offered to walk her home. Lucy agreed, and they left the library together. On the way, they kept talking, and Lucy felt her heart warm from his presence. At her doorstep, they stopped, and Alex looked into her eyes.
I'm glad I ran into you today.
Me too.
They stood there for a few moments before Lucy finally made up her mind. She quickly stepped forward and kissed him, feeling all her doubts and fears melt away in that kiss. Alex kissed her back with the same passion, and they stood there, holding each other, oblivious to everything around them. In that moment, they both realized that their connection was stronger than any prohibitions or fears, and though they knew their path would be full of obstacles, they were ready to face them together. Lucy and Alex entered the house, trying to hide their nervousness. Alex immediately offered to help with the computer problems Lucy had been struggling with. They went to her room where the laptop was. Alex sat at the desk, his fingers swiftly moving over the keys while Lucy stood nearby, watching his every move. After a few minutes, Alex announced that the problem was fixed. Lucy thanked him, but there was noticeable nervousness in her voice. Alex stood up and approached her, his gaze filled with determination. He wrapped his arms around her waist, pulling her closer. Their bodies pressed together, and Lucy felt her knees trembling.
Lucy.
She closed her eyes, feeling his breath hot against her skin. He began to kiss her neck, his hands sliding down her back, exploring every curve. Lucy could no longer hold back. Her arms wrapped around his neck, pulling him closer. Their lips met in a passionate kiss, both tender and insistent. Alex lifted her in his arms and carried her to the bed. He laid her down on the soft surface, and Lucy felt her body sinking into the mattress. Alex climbed on top of her, his hands beginning to remove her clothes. Lucy's heart raced faster, and her breath became ragged. Their touches grew more insistent. Each time Alex moved, Lucy felt like her body was exploding with pleasure. She moaned, not even realizing it, her hands sliding down his back, leaving red marks. Alex grabbed her by the hips, pulling her even closer. Lucy felt his breath growing heavier, which only intensified her arousal. They moved together, as if their movements were preordained. Lucy felt her body responding to his every touch, her legs trembling with desire. She scratched his back, feeling his muscles tense under her fingers. Alex moved faster, and Lucy felt waves of pleasure washing over her. Suddenly, the phone rang. Alex stopped, his breath heavy. He pulled the phone from his pocket and looked at the screen. His face darkened.
It's the university.
He said, his voice full of regret.
I have to take this.
Lucy nodded, understanding. She wanted this moment to last forever, but reality intervened in their perfect world. Alex got off the bed and started the phone conversation. Lucy watched him, her body still trembling from their recent intimacy. When the conversation ended, Alex approached her, his face worried.
I have to go to the university urgently.
He said, regretting. Lucy felt disappointment, but she understood him. They embraced one more time and Alex kissed her goodbye. When Alex left, Lucy remained lying on the bed, lost in her thoughts. She felt their connection growing stronger and knew new challenges awaited them. But she was ready to fight for her love, despite all obstacles. After Alex left, Lucy lay on the bed for a long time, trying to calm down. Her body was still burning from their recent intimacy, and thoughts of him wouldn't leave her alone. She got up, put on a robe, and went to the kitchen to pour herself a glass of water. Her thoughts were consumed with Alex, his touch, and the passion that had ignited between them. A few days passed, and Lucy tried to focus on her tasks, but thoughts of Alex haunted her. They met at the university, and each time their eyes met, it caused a wave of emotions. One evening, while she was preparing for her classes, her phone rang. It was Alex.
Hi, Lucy. I want to talk to you.
He said, his voice serious.
Hi, Alex. Sure, let's meet.
She replied, feeling her heart start to beat faster. They agreed to meet at the library after everyone had gone home. Lucy arrived early and chose a secluded spot among the shelves of books. Soon, Alex appeared. He sat down next to her, and they started talking about their feelings. Alex took her hand, their fingers intertwining. He leaned closer, his breath brushing her ear.
You know this is madness, but I want you.
He whispered. Lucy closed her eyes, feeling her heart beat even faster. She felt his closeness, his warmth. Their lips met in a passionate kiss, full of desire and desperation. Alex embraced her, pulling her close. They could no longer hold back. Their hands slid over each other's bodies, exploring every detail. Suddenly, footsteps echoed in the library. They quickly pulled away from each other, trying to regain their composure. It was a security guard checking the premises. Alex and Lucy exchanged glances, realizing their secret desire had almost been exposed. When the guard left, Alex turned to Lucy.
We need to be more careful.
I know.
She replied, feeling her heart still racing from the recent encounter. They hugged goodbye, knowing their connection was becoming more dangerous. But they couldn't stop. Their secret desire was too strong to ignore. Lucy returned home, her thoughts filled with Alex and what had happened. She knew more challenges awaited them, but she was ready to fight for her love. A few days had passed since Lucy and Alex spent that passionate evening together. The memory of his touch and how their bodies melded into one stayed with her. Her thoughts kept returning to that moment, filling her with excitement each time. The day of the local event arrived, and Lucy knew Alex would be there too. Determined to keep her thoughts clear and maintain boundaries, she decided to keep her distance from him. As Lucy arrived at the event, she immediately sensed his presence. Alex was the center of attention, his charisma drawing people in. Lucy tried to avoid looking his way, but her heart skipped a beat every time she saw him in the crowd. She focused on conversations with friends and colleagues, but her mind kept drifting back to Alex. Finally, Alex noticed her and made his way towards her. Anxiety washed over Lucy, but she resolved to remain cold and composed. As Alex approached, the tension between them was palpable.
Hi, Lucy.
He said, his voice soft but tinged with hurt.
Hi, Alex.
She replied, trying not to reveal her feelings.
Are you avoiding me?
Lucy sighed, knowing she couldn't hide the truth.
I'm just trying to maintain boundaries. What happened between us? It was wrong.
Alex frowned, feeling rejected.
Why? Because it breaks some rules? Lucy, we're adults. We can decide what's right for us.
But it's complicated. I don't want to ruin my life and hurt others.
The conversation grew increasingly tense. Lucy felt her heart race, her legs trembling with tension. She didn't know how to convey her feelings. At that moment, their conversation was interrupted by Alex's mother, who approached and cheerfully greeted Lucy. She didn't notice the tension between them and started talking about the latest news. Lucy felt relieved that their conversation was interrupted, but also sad that she couldn't express everything she felt. Alex stood nearby, his eyes filled with disappointment and hurt. As the event ended, Lucy went home with a heavy heart. She knew she had to decide about her feelings and what to do next. Her love for Alex was strong, but she feared ruining everything she had. Several weeks had passed since the day Lucy and Alex first realized their feelings for each other. Their secret meetings and stolen moments had become an oasis in their daily lives. But the tension grew with each passing day. Lucy felt her heart torn between duty and desire. Lucy was at an age where many women enjoy stability and comfort. At 40, she had a successful career and family obligations. Alex, at 19, was just starting his life, full of enthusiasm and hope. The difference in their ages and life experiences only intensified their inner conflict. One evening, as Lucy was home alone, her thoughts again returned to Alex. She couldn't shake the guilt over what was happening between them. Suddenly, there was a knock at the door, and Lucy was surprised to see Alex standing there. He entered, and the tension in the room became palpable. Lucy knew they couldn't go on like this, but she also knew she wasn't ready to let him go. Alex sat on the couch, and his eyes showed worry. Lucy felt her heart pounding in her chest. She knew they needed to discuss their future, but couldn't find the right words. Alex looked at her, his gaze filled with pain and doubt. He reached out, and their fingers intertwined. Lucy felt the warmth of his skin, reminding her of all the moments they had shared. It felt like everything was falling apart, and she didn't know how to hold it together. Alex was 21 years younger, adding complexity to their relationship. Lucy knew society wouldn't accept their union, which scared her. But the desire to be with Alex was stronger than all obstacles. Minutes passed in silence as Lucy pondered her thoughts. She knew she couldn't keep hiding her feelings, but she also feared destroying everything she had. Finally, Alex broke the silence. He took her hand and looked her straight in the eyes.
Lucy, we need to talk. We can't ignore what's happening between us,
he said. Lucy sighed, her eyes filling with tears. She knew he was right. Their relationship couldn't continue in secrecy. She needed to choose between duty and love.
I know, Alex. But you understand, I'm 21 years older than you. Our age difference is too great. And besides, my husband is coming back from his business trip in a few days,
Lucy said, trying to hide her pain. Alex froze, hearing her words. He understood that her husband's return would complicate everything even more.
but I want to have close connection with you, Lucy. I can't just leave all this behind,
he said, his voice trembling. Lucy knew that challenges awaited them, but she also knew she wasn't ready to give up on Alex. He was young, but his love was real, and she couldn't deny it. Weeks had passed since Lucy and Alex first realized their feelings for each other. Their secret meetings and stolen moments had become an oasis in their everyday lives, but the tension grew with each passing day. Lucy felt her heart tearing between duty and desire. Lucy was at an age where many women enjoyed stability and comfort. At 40, she had a successful career and family obligations. Alex, at 19, was just starting his life, full of enthusiasm and hope. The difference in their ages and life experiences only heightened their internal conflict. One evening, as they sat on the couch discussing their future, the atmosphere was charged. Lucy felt her heart pounding in her chest. She knew they needed to talk about the future, but she couldn't find the right words. Alex looked at her, his gaze filled with pain and doubt. He took her hand, their fingers intertwining. Lucy felt the warmth of his skin, and that touch reminded her of all the moments they had shared. It seemed like everything was falling apart, and she didn't know how to keep it together. Suddenly, Alex pulled her closer, his breath hot and uneven. Lucy felt her legs trembling with desire. He kissed her with such force and passion that she couldn't resist. Alex grabbed her hips, pulling her even closer, and she felt his hands exploring her body. His touch was both insistent and daring. Alex quickly stripped off her clothes, his movements quick and confident. Lucy felt her body responding to every move he made, her breathing growing more erratic. Alex slapped her buttocks, leaving red marks, and Lucy couldn't stifle her moans of pleasure. He kissed her neck, moving lower, lingering on her breasts. Lucy felt her heart racing, her body engulfed in a flame of desire. Alex was determined, his young body moving quickly and boldly, and Lucy was ready to submit to him like a master. They continued in this frenzied rhythm, their bodies entwined in a passionate dance. Alex lifted her and carried her to the bed, laying her on her back and spreading her legs wide. Lucy felt his fingers exploring her, his movements becoming more insistent. He turned her over onto her stomach, and she felt him enter her from behind. His thrusts were powerful and rhythmic, his hands gripping her hips tightly. Lucy knelt, her hands gripping the sheets as her body rocked in sync with his movements. Alex turned her over again. Now she was on top of him, moving with passion and strength. His hands slid over her body, kissing her breasts, gently nibbling on her cherries. Lucy felt her legs trembling, her breathing becoming more erratic. At that moment, Alex grabbed her waist and laid her back down, his movements growing even more intense. Lucy felt his young body moving quickly and boldly, his thrusts becoming deeper and more powerful. Alex leaned into her face, their eyes met, and he smirked, filling her completely. When it was over, Alex received a call from the university. He got up, his breathing still heavy, and said,
I have to go.
Lucy lay on the bed, her body still trembling from the experience. She knew this was a farewell moment, but she couldn't shake the feeling that their connection was too strong to simply sever. Alex dressed and, bending down, kissed her goodbye.
We'll meet again.
He whispered, and Lucy felt her heart fill with hope once more. She knew their path wouldn't be easy, but she was ready to fight for their love, no matter what. Weeks had passed since Lucy and Alex decided to end their relationship. Their secret meetings and stolen moments had become a thing of the past, and each tried to return to their normal lives. However, memories of passionate nights and unforgettable moments continued to haunt them both. Lucy returned to her daily routine: work, home, taking care of the children. Her husband had returned from his business trip, and it seemed that life was returning to its normal course. But deep down, she knew that something had changed. She became more withdrawn, often retreating into her thoughts, trying to figure out her feelings. Alex, in turn, focused on his studies. He tried to avoid places where he might meet Lucy, but it was more difficult than he thought. Their paths crossed at local events, and every time they met eyes, a spark of memories flared in his heart. One cool autumn morning, with leaves covering the sidewalks in a golden carpet, Lucy decided to take a walk in the park. She needed peace and solitude to sort out her thoughts. Passing by an old gazebo, she heard a familiar voice. It was Alex, talking to someone on the phone. Lucy stopped, her heart beating faster. She couldn't bring herself to leave, even though she knew it would be better. Alex finished the conversation and noticed her. He came closer, his gaze full of determination and warmth. He began, his voice trembling with emotion.
I know we decided to part ways, but I can't forget you. These weeks have been hell for me. I think about you all the time.
Lucy felt her heart tighten. She couldn't forget him either, but understood that their relationship was dangerous.
Alex, we can't go back to what we had. It's not right. You are still just a kid and don't understand what you're saying.
What if we try to start over, but somewhere else where no one knows us?
Lucy fell silent. The idea seemed crazy, yet enticing. She knew their love deserved a second chance, but she also understood the challenges they would face.
It's a difficult decision, and I can't make it right now. I need time.
Alex nodded, his face serious.
I understand, Lucy. I'll wait as long as it takes. But know that I love you, and I'm willing to do anything for our happiness.
They said goodbye, and Lucy continued her walk through the park, feeling her heart fill with mixed emotions. She knew that their path together had come to an end, despite the strong feelings she had. Realizing that she needed to move on, Lucy decided to focus on her family and find new happiness. Alex, left alone in the park, felt his heart breaking. He knew their love was special, but he also understood that he needed to let Lucy go for her sake and his own future. He decided to focus on his studies and career, leaving these memories in the past.